because now on breakdowns you say open ethnicity, and a lot of the things that I was auditioning for was a lot of open ethnicity stuff, right? And there's a lot of American productions that film up here, right? And when you're kind of looking at the industry as an actor, it almost splits where you have the Canadian industry and then the American industry in Canada, because they both kind of live parallel and sometimes they cross over, but a lot of the time, not really. And the actor that's living in the place of Ontario or living in Ontario or living in Canada um, has to kind of juggle two film careers a little bit, where it's like,
Yeah.
are you going to be the actor that a lot of the time is auditioning for American stuff, or are you going to
Mm.
be the actor that a lot of the time is going to do really well in the Canadian industry? Or are you going to kind of teeter on both?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Did y'all see that? What?
Let's just throw Scream 6 in there for like, it
My
was
good.
good movie. It was really good. The best of the franchise, in my opinion, since the first one.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of ITCAFpodcast. Of course, it is episode 288 of Inside the Crazy Ant Farm. You guys know your host with the most, myself, J. Logan Austin, and the one and only Dustin M. Bergman, aka The Mouth.
What's up?
Man, oh man, it's going to be a great freaking show. And before we tease it, be sure to leave a rating on this podcast. Comment below and tell us what you actually think about the show. Because if you didn't know, leaving a rating on the podcast helps up-and-comers find this specific show. Us here at Crazy Ant Media, we love lending the helping hand to up-and-comers and especially those who just enjoy the entertainment industry.
Absolutely.
We are your one-stop shop for pop culture informative news. So be sure to like and subscribe to ITCAF Podcast on all podcast platforms and YouTube. And man, oh man, this week on ITCAF Podcast, we'll be swinging into new casting announcements from the fourth installment of the Spider-Man franchise for the MCU, and also the Lantern series over on the DC Universe side. And then we'll also be talking about a Tiger Woods biopic coming from Amazon MGM and the Obamas.
Yes.
And so much more, man. Dustin, how are you feeling about everything?
I am feeling really good. Anytime that we get superhero news and it's a plus on both sides, not negatives, this makes me very happy. Both of these announcements that we have for you guys are huge, and I think it's going to be really good stuff for these two franchises, which I'm super pumped about. And then dude, I'm feeling really good about the show. There's a lot of interesting news happening right now, including some interesting stuff with Disney's Snow White. I mean, there's some, is it good? Is it bad? How's this thing going to do? And then one of our movies for our draft has some interesting numbers, and it looks like it might be good numbers. Fingers crossed, that one's looking pretty good. So much, bro. And you know what I'm really excited about? Because this is a good one, and I had to do some thinking on this one. Our top 5 this week. Characters from medical dramas. And I'm glad that we clarified characters. Because I was like, man, all the doctors? I felt like our lists would have been almost identical if it was just doctors. And I'm like, thank goodness it's characters. Because now I can go somewhere with this kind of a thing. So I'm excited for that. It's going to be a fun one, man.
Most definitely, most definitely. And then, of course, before jumping into the show, be sure to head over to our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear right here, right now, with free shipping. That's right. If you go over to our website and over to our Spreadshirt page, any other designs that you love, you will get free shipping on. Yes, we don't want you to pay full price, so be sure to take advantage of that right here, right now. I believe that's going on for a week, and of course, we'll keep you posted on that, so be sure to check that out while supplies last, that's for sure. Well, of course, we love the juggernaut Disney, and we're going to be starting with them, of course, again, this week. With the production set to start years later, our next installment... With the production ready to start later this year for the installment of the Spider-Man franchise.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Series star Tom Holland looks to have found a new co-star. That's right. Stranger Things star Sadie Sink has set to join the sequel of the Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios. Holland is already set to return, of course, as Peter Parker.
Duh.
As for who Sink will be playing, the prevailing theory is that she'll be introduced as an X-Men character, also known as Jean Grey. But don't count on that idea that if she shows up as another beloved redheaded Spider-Man character, because we don't know. These are just rumors out right now, but we're very excited about all of the possibilities, that's for sure. But what we do know is that the role will be significant, and it will tie in No Way Home to this one, of course, which concluded with Parker making the decision to complete Doctor Strange's spell that erases his identity from the entire world. Now, Destin Daniel Cretton is directing this bad boy, with Amy Pascal and Marvel president Kevin Feige, of course, producing.
Yes.
This is very exciting because Sadie Sink, I think, is going to have a massive career, especially this last season of Stranger Things was very focused around her character.
Yeah.
And it really got to show what she had as far as acting chops. And then, of course, she was in the Oscar-nominated film The Whale with Brendan Fraser. So she is just elevating her game, stepping into the MCU, and I'm super excited about it.
Same. And anybody who didn't know her from those two things, which, what? She skyrocketed into everybody's mindset when she was in All Too Well video from Taylor Swift.
Yes.
Like a gazillion people saw that, all the Swifties. So everybody knows who she is. This is an interesting cast because you brought up Doctor Strange, right? And No Way Home. And if you guys remember that, like, he went ahead and finished the spell and now nobody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And on top of that, nobody remembers Peter Parker. Like, all of his friends who knew he was Spider-Man, everything was wiped out. So they don't even remember being friends with Peter Parker at this point. So that leads to that the former co-stars will likely be significantly reduced in this new one. And these new people being introduced every other week now that we're talking about with casting will likely be the main co-stars moving forward until they, because I'm pretty confident him and MJ are going to hook back up. But that is one of the rumors when you said beloved redhead. Many people are theorizing that this could be MJ, Mary Jane Watson. Remember, there's been speculation as to whether Zendaya is or is not MJ. Her name in the movie is Michelle Jones. It's not Mary Jane. And many people think that she was just a variant and not the actual MJ. Well, a college-aged redhead entering the scene could very well be just that if it's not Jean Grey. Jean Grey's an interesting thing for me, though, because this would set the tone of what age we're looking to introduce the X-Men with, right? This would be still the late teens, early 20s kids at Professor X's school, which would imply to me the original 5. It would be the original 5, which would be very interesting. I think that's what a lot of people want to see is the original 5 and young, just getting started. So that could be. But I have my own theory. I have a theory that it's not either one of those, Mary Jane Watson or Jean Grey. Here's a kicker, because I was a fan. I loved it as a kid. Everybody loved it as a kid. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. What if she's Angelica? What if she's Firestar? That would be badass to introduce Firestar into the MCU. And she's a mutant, so it gives us another mutant. She is friends with Spider-Man. It could be a way to introduce Iceman before the X-Men. And I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. She would be a badass Firestar too. That's all I'm saying. Maybe it's the start. Maybe it's 2 out of the 3 of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
I would love to see that. I would love to
Me
see that.
too.
That's for sure. Especially with the MCU kind of going through its whole new change with, the old established characters like the original 6 kind of moving on from, of course, they'll have little pop-ins here and there. We've already confirmed some people coming back, some people not. Of course, this past week, Scarlett Johansson being like, she's dead. God damn it. She's dead.
Well, and another on Daredevil, all but hinted, if anybody missed it, to Miles Morales.
Yep.
So we might be seeing Miles Morales' Spider-Man show up in Daredevil before a Spider-Man movie.
It would
That
be
would be
crazy.
crazy,
But what
right?
I was getting to was that I would just love to see the MCU go to the younger direction, build
Yes.
up the younger cast so that they will be established for years to come. Because we know that, when Iron Man got signed on, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, they were all a little bit older. Not old, but just older,
Yeah,
probably in their
yeah.
later 30s. And then, of course, carrying into where they are today, which, late 40s, 50s, kind of like that age range. So I think if you want the MCU to stay successful, you keep it young and you keep it fresh because you have people like Tom Holland, Sadie Sink, Millie Bobby Brown, not to continue with the Stranger Things cast, but still, I just think you should keep it young. I think that would make it more appealing for the younger audiences moving forward to stay entrenched with the superhero universe.
Well, and it seems like it could be heading that way. We've already known because of the leaked concept art, the Young Avengers, they are indeed moving forward with the Young Avengers, which is all young people, right? Even with Daredevil with White Tiger, spoilers if you haven't watched it, his younger sister takes over. So it's a
Mhm.
younger female version of White Tiger that we could see moving forward. So there is opportunity. And like I said, if it is the young 20s, late teens, young 20s for the X-Men, that gives you such a span to run that franchise if they're young. And you pump them out every 2 or 3 years. Don't wait 5, 6 years in between because then they'll age out real quick. But if you time it properly, you're right. That would give us a nice shelf life for the X-Men. And even if it's Firestar, you could, there's possible spin-offs. Maybe you are setting up the X-Men, but you could also do a spin-off of Spider-Man and his amazing friends. And yeah, there's so many possibilities that they could go with if they do what you're saying and go young. And then you've got the Daredevils and a few of the other older characters that could still be the groundwork, right? The mentors, if you will, kind of a thing. But I like the idea of young. Like you said, I think that's a good. I think that's the future. I think that's the future.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Well, Disney is all mine this week. That is right. I guess Disney is also hosting a Hollywood premiere of Snow White on March 15th. But the studio isn't rolling out the red carpet for all of the friends, all of the press, everybody to come and make this thing as big as what it could be. Why? Because there is some on-set or kind of behind the computer screen drama between its
Yeah.
two stars, Rachel Ziegler and Gal Gadot, who plays obviously the evil queen and then obviously Snow White herself. But the two are expecting to attend this little red carpet pre-party event at the El Captain Theater. But of course, like I said, the dozens of media outlets that are usually invited to interview the cast and creatives of the premieres and the movies are not going to be there. Instead, though, the coverage will be limited to just photographers and a house crew. Now, it scaled back plans from amid the controversies surrounding the Mark Webb directed film, which hits theaters March 21st. Now, Ziegler has promoted a free Palestine on social media. And at the same time, Gal Gadot, who is Israeli, has become an outspoken supporter of Israel on social media as well. And in passionate speeches she delivered on March 4th when she was honored with the Anti-Defamation League's annual summit in New York City. So obviously they're on two completely different sides of the thing, and they have both, I guess, kind of subtweeted each other, not added each other on Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it. But yeah, I guess things are a little tense right now, so they don't want to stir the pot. Disney doesn't want to stir the pot with the journalists coming and asking questions. So I think, I don't know if this is going to cause backlash as far as more people going to see Snow White, because I already think it was a lukewarm response to this live action remake being recreated in the first place. And obviously with it geared more towards the younger audience and the kids, I think that's still what will help it, but also like at the same time, are the kids even interested in a new Snow White? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna help or hurt the film's promotional sales at the box office. I don't know if it's gonna do anything to it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I mean, This thing came right out of the gate with controversy, though. Remember, Peter Dinklage made a comment about the dwarfs and how they were misrepresenting and kind of offensive to that group or culture of people, so like right out of the gate, it was hammered. And now I just feel like what Disney's worried about doing, or what is worried about happening, is the press doing what it does and causing issues where there's no issues. Because as far as we know, there was no contention on set. These two women get along. They don't hate each other. But with them being on opposing sides, if you get a bunch of press on the red carpet and they start hammering that, oh, how did you guys work together when you think this and you think that? And they start to force the issue, that could get ugly really fast. And I think the two women are doing a really good job of trying to avoid that and only talk about the work and the art and their film. But, you get put in a pressure cooker and things start getting thrown at you, you're going to respond. And I think Disney is trying to avoid that at all costs. Rightfully so. I just, we talk about all the time about sometimes you should just leave politics out of the arts. Sometimes. And this would be one of those times. I think that's probably a smart move.
Well, and I'm very curious too, because this is the pick that you gave me on our box office draft, and I gave you the Minecraft pick. And I'm like, between both of those, I really don't know which one is going to be more successful than the other, right? Because like I said earlier, I don't think that the Snow White audience is really built into the Disney franchise, like mega blockbuster, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's going to crack $100 million. I would love it, obviously.
Like
if it
total?
did, because
you don't
it's
think
on
total?
my box office. But I just, well, no, not total, opening weekend.
Okay.
But yeah, I just don't know if, Minecraft is going to crack $100 million for its opening weekend either. So it's going to be interesting. So the best out of both worlds. I'm still glad you gave me Snow White, because I think it's going to be more successful than the Minecraft movie. But we'll get into that, because you have a little bit talking about this next one.
Yeah, the numbers would seem to disagree with you. The numbers look like this could have legs and perform really well, because it's apparently one of the most anticipated movies from young people. So I think Snow White is going to be my generation going and flocking to compare it to the original. And young kids, I think you're right. They're now Lilo and Stitch. They're Moana. They're the young franchise of what they're used to. So like you said, will they gravitate to Snow White? I don't know. But let's jump over to Warner Brothers and talk about Minecraft, because Warner Brothers and Legendary's A Minecraft Movie is apparently tracking early. Now, they've still got a little bit, but early numbers are saying 60 million or more opening weekend for US, Canada. Now, that, along with Superman and Apple's F1. Yes, Apple, but Warner Brothers is distributing it, y'all. This could lead to a hefty box office for Warner Brothers, and they've needed one for a long time. So these three movies have a lot of potential. But specifically a Minecraft movie, it's an unaided awareness, meaning they're not pumping out polls, they're not doing, this is just flat out asking people with no trying to lean them one way or another, of a 13. Now, that's the meter where those polled cite the movie as want to see without being prompted by a pollster or anybody trying to get them to answer a specific way. Now, that's below the Super Mario Brothers movies, 20, but above Pokemon Detective Pikachu, which opened at 54.3 million in 2018. So it's tracking above that, which is a good sign. Now, the Minecraft, get here, this is why I'm confident, though. This is why I'm feeling pretty good. The Minecraft movie is already hot with women under 25 and men under 25 as their first choice to see this summer, with picks of 15 and 13 scores. That bodes really well. If you can attract the under 25 male and female, that could be potentially huge. I thought under 25 male would be all in on this. Gamers, right? But apparently women, not just women gamers, but maybe date night, for whatever reason, it looks good that these women will also show up. So, dude, I'm thinking pretty good about this movie. I think this might be a winner on my picks that you saddled me with.
I know. Like, yeah, it's gonna be very interesting, and this is Jack Black's genre now, right? The video games and
Right,
the
right.
animation type thing. So, yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. I'm hoping it doesn't have legs. I'm hoping it doesn't do that great. I want it to still do good because I want Warner Brothers to succeed, despite us always trashing Zaslav.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
still want the company to be a company at the
Oh,
end of the day because yeah, like we're still worried about Warner Brothers not being a company. So hopefully it does good, but not too good to where it surpasses me in the box office draft.
wouldn't this be interesting if this is the biggie for the summer instead of Superman?
That would be
That
wild.
would be just crazy if Warner
Yeah.
Brothers has this massive summer, but it's because of this movie instead of Superman.
Yeah.
And I have both of those on my list, so I don't know how I would feel about that, but that would be crazy. And I
Well, and
guess
it would be your reversed order because of the fifth pick I gave you rather than your first pick
first
that you
pick.
actually picked.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time a lower draft pick would outperform the number one pick.
I mean, this is valid, man. This is valid. That's for sure. But I mean, speaking of DC Studios, they are trying to do the best they can. That is for sure. Whether it's a bird in the sky, no, it's a plane. No, it's Superman, or his friendly neighborhood grounded Green Lanterns. That's for sure. True detective looking Green Lanterns. We're very excited though because our buddy and fellow funny guy, that's for sure, and previous guest on ITCAFpodcast,
Yes.
Jason Ritter, has earned himself a recurring role in the upcoming Lantern series.
Yes.
Now, Ritter joins the cast that already includes Aaron Perrier, Kyle Chandler, Kelly MacDonald, Garrett Dillahunt, Pornia Jarganahan, and Aldrich Thompson. Now, of course, per the official logline of this bad boy, as we've told you before as well, this show follows a new recruit, John Stewart, who of course is played by Aaron Perrier, and Lantern legend Hal Jordan, who is played by Kyle Chandler. Two intergalactic cops drawn into the darkness that is Earth-based mysteries as they investigate a murder in the American heartland. Now, Ritter himself, Jason Ritter, will play Billy Macon, described as a good-looking charmer who does his father's bidding, capitalizing on his family's reputation as he clings to his small-town ego and has everything to lose. Ooh, that sounds kind of interesting. Is he a good guy, bad guy, or just kind of like an asshole?
I think
that's kind of giving off those vibes.
And I think that's his deal lately.
Yeah.
That seems to be his niche that he's kind of fallen into. You know, with everything that raising Dion and then even on Matlock, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? We don't know. And now it would appear in Lanterns we're gonna get that type of a portrayal. We do know that Garrett Dillahunt is gonna be playing his daddy, so he's gonna be playing the son of Garrett Dillahunt's character. I'm just super excited about this. I cannot express enough how happy I am to see this massive resurgence of Jason Ritter. He's everywhere lately. He's killing it. He's doing voice work and animated stuff. He's making guest, appearances on major shows. He's getting recurring characters. He's getting lead characters. He's just killing it, man. And I could not be more. And how cool, Jason Ritter in the DCU. In a superhero universe, that's badass.
Well deserved.
Yeah, exactly. Well deserved. And my only question is, and Jason, maybe you can answer this for us without giving away any spoilers, but what does this mean for the fate of your character on Matlock? Like, I don't want to see Julian go away. I don't want that. I like Julian. He's killing it. He's an interesting character. There's more story to tell there, I think. So please tell me this doesn't mean you're leaving Matlock. You got renewed for season 2. I feel like Julian's got to come back. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's jump on over to Paramount where we've got some more big news. This one is exciting. Paramount's Scream 7, as you guys know, is continuing forward, and it's continuing to build on its already impressive cast of everybody new And everybody dead, apparently, as we've been telling you the last few weeks, coming back. Well, now Landman's Michelle Randolph and Home Economics' Jimmy Tatro have joined the cast as well. Paramount is releasing the 7th installment, just like it did with the last 2 movies. This one will also come out on February 27th of 2026. Kevin Williamson, the architect of the Scream franchise, who of course wrote the original Wes Craven-directed 1996 hit, is directing again. Guy Busiek, the scribe of 2022's Scream and Scream 6, is writing this screenplay. She's clearly an it girl right now. She's killing it on Landman. She's also one of the stars of 1923. She's everywhere. So this makes sense to me because the youngins love her. So she's popular right now. So this just seems like a no-brainer to me to put her in this franchise. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. I've been really happy with the last 2 Scream movies, so I'm excited to see where this one goes.
Yeah, completely agree, man. Completely agree. And I mean, speaking of Paramount Plus's huge new hit television show, Landman, the series has been renewed for a second season at Paramount Plus.
Yes.
Now, the Taylor Sheridan series, which stars Billy Bob Thornton, is set to, in the world of the West Texas oil fields, originally debut on Paramount Plus back in November, with the season 1 finale airing in January. Now, according to the Nelson streaming data, the show ranked number 8 out of the top 10 chart for all SOVD originals in the Q4 of 2024. Now, according to Paramount itself, the show also had the most watched global premiere and finale of any series history of Paramount Plus. And I can see why, because I just jumped on this bad boy this past week, and holy crap, I am hooked. Billy Bob Thornton is that guy that I just don't want to like but love at the same time, because he is so damn good at everything that he does. And like, his role in this show is so iconic. Freaking that part where his finger is falling off. Do you want to go in the ambulance? No, I want a cigarette and a Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Give me a second. I'm like, oh my God, this writing is so damn good. So I'm not surprised that this thing got picked up for a second season. And honestly, I think it's one of the best shows on television right now. So be sure to check out it.
Without doubt. And like just the entire cast, like Paulina Chavez, Ali Larder, John Hamm, Demi Moore, they're all just killing it. And as I said, Michelle Randolph, they're bringing it with these characters. There's so much good development and storyline with each one of these characters. It's like crazy how well they're doing it. And I can tell you, because there's been some critique here and there I've seen about, is it over the top? Is it really? I lived in Southwest Louisiana for the majority of my life, specifically over in Lafayette for a great deal of time, where the oil industry is the key moneymaker there. People flying in and out to oil rigs and that. This is extremely accurate. Are they taking a little liberty here or there? Yes, every entertainment does. But how they're portraying and how they're representing the oil fields and what goes on and the dangers and sometimes controversy of, it's accurate. It's just great. I'm right there. Just watch this show if you haven't already. That's all I'm saying. Jump on this bad boy and get to it. What you can't watch or get to it, because it ain't happening again, the MTV Movie and TV Awards. Nope. For a second consecutive year, not gonna happen. MTV has once again put a pause on the awards show last year and this year with an expectation that it would have returned in a reimagined format, but apparently not. According to sources, the show remains on pause this year also, and updates on future plans will be revealed once they're solidified. Now, news that the 2024 MTV Movie and TV Awards was a no-go came after the 2023 edition was impacted, of course, by the WGA strike and had to pivot away from the live event to a pre-taped show after Drew Barrymore pulled out as host. Only after she was criticized, by the way. Remember, guys, she was going to do it. Just want to put that out there. And pulled out as the host by the Writers Guild, and then geared up to pick at the venue. Traditionally held at the start of the summer blockbuster season, the show launched all the way back in 1992, if you can believe that, as the MTV Movie Awards, and was rebranded to include TV categories in 2017. This is a fun show, and it does do well with the young audience, and it does kind of get people pumped up for the summer season of blockbuster films. So it's unfortunate that we are now missing out on it for a second year in a row. Paramount needs to get their shit together with this one, and of course they can't get their shit together with Skydance. We still don't know what's happening there. So maybe MTV won't even exist for a third year in a row. We don't know. But as of right now, we ain't getting no MTV awards. So sorry.
That is wild, man, because I mean, we've talked about this past year where I was wrong that the award season did get a nice bump in viewership this year. Well, I shouldn't say nice, a little bump. But I'm still scared though, because if will this show ever come back? Of course, they're saying they're trying to revamp into a new format and figure out what to do. But I'm worried that award shows will go away and they'll just send an award in a mail, in the mails, to the credited people, and then just announce it on social media, or have the person who won the award do a nice little video for them or whatever, But I mean, the MTV Movie Awards were so freaking popular, man. This is the Moon Man, okay? They have Funkos about this award. I would just be terrified if this is the beginning of the end for not just the MTV Movie and Television Awards, but also all award shows in general. I surely hope not, and I don't believe so, but it's still a terrifying thing to even put into your brain as a filmmaker and as someone who loves these type of things.
That would be a full circle moment, because I don't think a lot of people realize that the Oscars, I mean, the first several dozen years, it wasn't televised. It wasn't open to the public. It was only the actors and the studio chiefs, and some people, they were brought in. They were handed some hors d'oeuvres, not even a full-on dinner plate or whatever, handed the awards and went home. It took 30 minutes. And so we could be coming full circle moment where it just goes back to a non-event. Only the people show up, they get their award, and they go home. That would be crazy. That would be so crazy. I just don't even know. I don't even know.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Well, heading over to NBCUniversal, where Daniel Radcliffe will star opposite of Tracy Morgan. That's a dynamic duo.
Right?
And an upcoming NBC comedy pilot. Now, the untitled single cam pilot was originally announced earlier in March, but all we know is this official logline. A disgraced former football player, who of course will be played by Morgan, that might be a bit of a little racist, but it's fine, is on a mission to rehabilitate his image. Radcliffe will star as Arthur Tobin, described as an award-winning filmmaker who moves into Reggie's mansion to film an immersive documentary about the former star running back. That sounds pretty freaking funny. I'm excited to see those two go head to head as scene partners. But yeah, it's an interesting concept, but I'm worried though that it won't last long. We're in a day and age where one season, one and done, and it goes away. And I hope not, but I could see it happening.
Same. But I am excited about this casting though, because I can totally envision Radcliffe as a highly anxious, over attentive documentary filmmaker. Just just like he's on crack the whole time and he's just trying to, I can totally see that type of a character. And I hope they have a rap battle.
Right.
Radcliffe can bring it. So I'd like to see a little poking back and forth there. I think that would be freaking hysterical. Well, NBC has also given out a pilot order to the single cam project Stumble, which could be a warning for both of these shows. The show is described as a mockumentary about the ridiculously high-stakes competitive world of junior college cheer. Now, this project was originally set up with a put pilot commitment at NBC in late 2024. Now, Jeff Astroff and Liz Astroff are writing and executive producing this pilot. This is now the second NBC comedy pilot pickup in as many weeks, following, yes, the Tracy Morgan comedy that we just mentioned. So back-to-back pickups over back-to-back weeks. Will they both be here next season? We don't know.
Give the benefit to the doubt to NBCUniversal, though. I feel like they do take chances, they do take swings, and that's better said than done for most of these studios.
Yes.
And so kudos to them, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they can find something that sticks to the wall. That's for sure. Well, Sony is going back to something that stuck to the wall back in the 90s because you
Yes.
got to be careful. You know, you got to be careful who you associate yourself with or who you put on your lease, okay? Because that's a takeaway from 1992's psychosexual, I should say, thriller, Single White Female, a classic squirmy suspense that featured Bridget Fonda as freshly single Manhattanite who has the misfortune of picking a clingy, awkward woman, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, to be her roommate while she recovers from her breakup. But because this is Hollywood and they love putting a fresh coat of paint on a cult classic, Sony and Elizabeth Gabler's 3000 Pictures are reviving the Entra apartment friction with Jenna Ortega and Taylor Russell in negotiations to star in this bad boy for this remake. Now, no word yet on who will direct this film, but the original was directed by Barbara Schroeder of the Reversal of Fortune fame.
Yep.
Now, the original Single White Female was a box office hit when it was released back in 92, earning up to about $84.1 million, and that was against a $16 million budget. So that was a nice little profit that they took from this thing. But the scary thing is, we're not really in the day and age of time of these weird out there movies anymore. So hopefully they do the same thing where they don't have a huge budget and then can get a nice return on investment when it comes to their box office revenue.
Yeah, the first movie was fantastic. It was just
Yeah.
a really intricate, detailed look at two completely polar opposite people trying to be in an apartment together, and one of them was like, yeah, terrifying. And my guess would be that's going to be Jenna Ortega, the awkward,
Oh, for
roommate
sure.
going through
That's
the
her shit right
breakup
now.
that brings in the socialite as a roommate. If it's not, epic fail. Not that I want to typecast her, but she just screams being able to pull off an awkward, just going through a breakup kind of woman that brings in a socialite roommate and then terrorizes her. That just screams to me like a winner. Right there. I love Jenna Ortega. I think she's one of the best actresses in our last 20 years. And I think she's just getting better and better. She's taking risks with projects. She's doing comedy. She's doing drama. She's doing horror. She's just lacing it up everywhere, and she's killing it. So I think this thing has the potential to be huge. But like you said, it's definitely they're taking a shot with it. And so we'll see, but I hope. I'm pulling for it because I love her and she's killing it, and I don't want to see anything road bump her progress because not that she couldn't overcome it like that, but still. Hey, you remember that other small little indie studio that's kind of been doing okay over the last 10 years or so? A24? You remember that hot, steamy, what the fuck am I watching movie that was a huge hit in the box office? Yeah, Baby Girl. Well, that Nicole Kidman and Harris Dickinson body office romance movie will be, are you ready? Streaming on Max on April 25th after, and this is impressive, 121 theatrical day window. Guys, that's huge. That's huge. That's like what, 3 months, almost 4 months by the time it finishes its run. That's unheard of these days to last that long in the theater. So, I mean, they've got to be loving it. A24's got to be loving that. Now, the R-rated Boss in Love with the Intern movie, is that what we're going to go with? Maybe. It opened on Christmas Day and went on to make $28.1 million domestic, $63.8 million worldwide. You're thinking, that's not huge, but it only had a $20 million production budget. So it's already been in profit. It's going to do huge, I think. I'm just going to predict it right now on Max because this thing's a little freaky. And people like the freaky sex stuff. That's all I'm saying. It seems to work lately. I think this one's going to do well for Max. I think people are they're going to gravitate to this one, and well, we'll see.
We'll see, man. We'll see. If there's anything that Max is good for, it's sex.
Freaky sex.
Sure. Freaky sex. They're a perfect
No
brand
doubt.
for the freaky sex. Jumping over to Amazon MGM Studios, where Reacher Season 3 is scoring buff ratings on Amazon Prime Video.
Yes.
As the streamer says, it has commanded about 54.6 million viewers globally in its first 19 days. Now, in that window, it's the most watched returning season ever on Amazon Prime Video, with a 0.5% uptick from season 2's viewership. Reacher Season 3 is also the most watched season on Amazon Prime Video since Fallout in its first 19 days. Now, Reacher, which was renewed for a fourth season before the third even freaking aired, stars Alan Richardson as the title hulking vigilante, who in Season 3 goes undercover to rescue an informant held by an enemy from his past. Man, oh man, this thing is definitely Amazon's freaking hit right now on Prime Video. It's very curious. I'm very curious to see where Amazon will be in the next 5 years, because I was listening to a podcast about Amazon MGM, and their audience target range, I feel like, is older. You know, they gear a lot of their stuff towards an older audience. I would say the 35 to 60 range, you know, or 40 to 60 range, that 20-year gap. Just because, I mean, a lot of like reality TV shows that they're doing with like the Mr. Beast competition show, but then you got a lot of white guys and guns and like spy thrillers and that type of stuff. So I would be very curious to see where Prime Video is in the next 5 years. Are they going to keep on this streamline, or are they going to completely switch up their strategy and try something new?
I don't know, but whatever they do, they need to keep Reacher, because this show is badass. I'm loving season 3. There's only 2 episodes left, and I'm kind of bummed about that. But they're clearly setting up Neagly's spinoff that we told you about last week. And that's looking like it's going to kick ass. But this season has been incredible. The writing, the acting, the directing, the twists of not knowing what's going to kind of happen, kind of a thing. It's fantastic. And I stick to what we said a couple weeks ago with our top 5. This is one I really think they should attempt to put back on the big screen with Richardson. I just think this is a win-win all the way around for Amazon. I think they no way they lose with it. I think it would be huge. Another one that I think will be huge, because people, for whatever reason, are still interested. They still want to know. They still find him captivating. I'm, of course, talking about Tiger Woods. And Amazon MGM is developing a movie about him, with Barack and Michelle Obama's company Higher Ground in talks to produce this bad boy. Now, based on Kevin Cook's book, The Tiger Slam, the inside story of the greatest golf ever played, the biographical drama will chart the rise of the child prodigy turned golf star. King Richard filmmaker Ronaldo Marcus Green is attached to direct this thing. Now, the film is expected to focus on Woods' triumph of winning 4 consecutive major championships, which of course became known as the Tiger Slam. After turning pro at age 20 in 96, Woods became one of the most recognizable golfers, obviously, of all time. He has 15 major championship wins to his name, including 82 PGA Tour victories. Though the timeline of the Woods biopic is unclear, the news comes as Amazon MGM reaffirmed its desire to increase the investment in the film. So, interesting. The studio recently shared plans to release 12 to 14 movies theatrically in 2026, and it sounds like this one might be one of the first ones out of the gate that year, because they're upping the budget, they're bringing in the Obamas. I feel like, this is going to be a good one. I think, because like I said, like I teased, there is still a lot of interest in Tiger, and I think this one will do pretty good.
Completely agree. I definitely think, he's the most popular golfer ever. Obviously Arnold Palmer, you have Phil Mickelson, like so many others, John Daly. But I think Tiger Woods was captivating for his time period, and I think he'll forever be the most popular golfer ever, if not one of the best of all time. Well, definitely the best of all time. For sure. Well, we're heading over to Netflix now, where Lady Gaga, I love how she's continuing acting right now. I love her relationship with Bowen Yang. They just did a podcast together. She's killing it. Yes. She is now going to appear in season 2 of Netflix's The Addams Family spinoff, Wednesday. Of course, starring Jenna Ortega. Gaga's role in the series is currently unknown. Maybe she's just a hand. Who knows? Gaga ties to Wednesday go back to the first season when filming a scene featuring Ortega dancing to Goo Goo Muck by the Cramps. was reworked with Gaga's Bloody Mary, and then of course went viral on TikTok. I'm sure y'all remember that. It was freaking everywhere. I love how Gaga's getting back into her weird era with her new album Mayhem that just came out, and she's been promoting that everywhere, because, you know, Bad Romance, that's what I grew up on. When I think of Lady Gaga, I think of Bad Romance, Born This Way, all the good stuff. And very talented musician and a really good actress as well. So I'm excited to see her in more projects like this and less like the Joker.
Yeah, no, and that's what Ortega said. She said she was just blown away by the acting ability with Gaga. She was literally like, "This is incredible!" Like, you know. So I'm kind of pumped to see where that goes. You know who else we know is an incredible actress and blew us away recently? Kristen Melody on The Penguin, of course. Well, she's apparently joined the cast of Netflix's animated feature In Your Dreams. Melody joined Simu Liu and Craig Robinson, as well as Jolie Huang Rappaport, Elias Jansen, Gia Caritas, Omid Djali, Sungwoon Cho, and Zachary Noah Pfizer. Now, set to be released later this year, In Your Dreams follows Stevie and her brother Elliot, who journey into the absurd landscape of their own dreams. If the siblings can withstand a snarky stuffed giraffe, zombie breakfast foods, and the queen of nightmares, the Sandman, will grant them their ultimate dream come true, a perfect family. Is there such a thing? I don't know. So maybe the Sandman can't grant that. We're going to find out, though. This one sounds fun. I mean, you know, who doesn't want to see siblings pop up in each other's dreams and see some weird shit? I mean, come on. Like,
it's always been the source of curiosity too. If we could actually control our dreams, if we could actually control like 100% of our brain. Man, oh man, I love the introspective nature of all of the different possibilities that Netflix likes to dive into when it comes to weird shit. So it's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yes.
But I do know, finally, Apple has given us a reason to believe again. That's for sure. Because Apple TV Plus has officially, there's been rumors about it, but now we have an official freaking confirmation that Ted Lasso will be coming back for season 4.
Yes.
With series leads Jason Sudeikis on board to return as the pun-happy, mustachioed football coach. No other castings, though, have been officially confirmed at this time, though it had been previously reported that options had been picked up for Hannah Waddingham, Brett Goldstein, and Jeremy Swift to go out. But yes, all we know right now, it's in early stages of development, and we're very excited to see this come back. I wonder if this is because Apple just was gaining so many awards because of Ted Lasso. And I mean, Shrinking is definitely a nice replacement for the popularityness that was Ted Lasso. But I wonder if they're worried that, or not Shrinking, Severance. That's
Severance, yeah.
Severance was a nice replacement for Ted Lasso. But I'm wondering if they are worried that Severance won't win like awards like the way that Ted Lasso did. So it's going to be very freaking interesting.
It is. Well, and you brought up Shrinking. Shrinking has started to see success in the award shows. So it is, I guess it's really popular, but hasn't quite matched the popularity of a Severance or a Ted Lasso yet. But it is starting to fill that gap with winning awards. So we'll kind of see. We don't know, you know, what the situation is there or how much longer Severance will last. You know, we just don't know. But what we do know is that Shrinking's popularity could see another increase and maybe compete with Severance and Ted Lasso. Why? Because the one and only man, myth, legend himself, Jeff Daniels, is apparently joining the cast of Shrinking. The actor will appear in the series' upcoming 3rd season, which was originally announced back in October. Now, Daniels will appear in a guest star role as Jimmy's father. Yes, Jeff Daniels playing Jason Segel's father is going to be epic. That's all I'm saying. Along with Segel, the cast of the critically acclaimed dramedy also includes, as you guys know, Harrison Ford, Jessica Williams, Michael Urie, Lakita Maxwell, Krista Miller, and Ted McKinley. Jeff Daniels has proven time and time again that he's a master at drama and a master at comedy. This show kind of showcases both. And this just seems like a win-win to me. His dynamic, if you think that Jason Segel playing off of Harrison Ford is good, wait until now he's got to deal with his own daddy, and it's freaking Jeff Daniels. I think this is a win. I think it's going to be huge.
Completely agree. And once I saw this casting announcement, I put both of their pictures side by side, Jason Segel and Jeff Daniels, and they do look like they could be kin.
Oh,
they could
without
be,
doubt.
So I'm very excited about this, and this is definitely another one that I want to jump on.
Yeah, totally. I've been watching it, not regularly, but I watched the first season and then I've been sporadic with season 2. I need to finish season 2 and then get back on it regularly for season 3, but I do enjoy it. The dynamic between all the characters is really good. One last thing I want to throw in here. We don't have a studio yet. I don't know if it's going to go to the old studio that's been doing them, if it'll be a totally new studio, but in case you missed it, because it wasn't really on the radar, Emilio Estevez was in New Mexico yesterday and made quite the announcement that made a lot of people, this guy included, very happy. Young Guns 3 is happening. What? Young Guns 3 is happening, y'all. They are bringing back the Renegades. Suit up. Or the Regulators. One, I guess it's going to be focused on a new gang of regulators, but it's apparently about whether Billy is or is not alive. They're going to answer that question. And Lou Diamond Phillips and Christian Slater are both also set to come back with him. And Emilio will not only be playing Billy the Kid, but will be directing this bad boy. So nice. There you go. I love this. That was a huge franchise, and I kind of was upset they left it at 2. Because they did leave it open as, is that really Billy? Is he really alive? Did he make it into the early, 1900s? I guess we're going to get that answer 35 years later now, but yay! Thank you, Emilio, for making...
That's very exciting.
Right?
Talk about full circle moment, man. That's for sure. But now it is time for our guest segment. Oh my goodness. We have the one and only Feaven Abera coming on the show to talk about her time on the doc set for Fox and so many different things. She is a rising star in the creative acting community, and I definitely think she will go far. I wouldn't be surprised, because she's up in Canada, if she started popping up in some Hallmark projects.
Oh, without doubt,
sure.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited for everybody to hear this, because it's very inspiring, and it definitely gives up-and-comers the opportunity to look into another peer of theirs and be able to try to navigate their own career against another one's.
Yeah, and she was extremely knowledgeable about the industry and how it works and how it differs. We learned some stuff from her that we did not know about the Canadian film industry and how it sort of differs from. So it was nice to, to speak to somebody that we could actually learn something from it and expand our, knowledge of what works and what doesn't. And of course, she was a pure gem. She may or may not be a certain star of Doc's favorite actor. So what's that mean? You're going to find out. This is a really good one.
That's right, man. Well, here she is.
Feaven Abera, welcome inside the Crazy Ant Farm. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We are living the dream as always, and we are super pumped to have you on the show. Let me just start off by saying, and we'll dive into this way, but your episode of Doc was awesome, just insane. It was I can't even imagine. It was so good. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. But we are pumped. All the work that you've been doing and how you got started in the career and everything. We are pumped to talk to you. And that's kind of how we kind of start everything off for everybody who might not be familiar with you or how you got started. What was it? Was it something that you always wanted to do, or did you kind of fall into it? How'd you get in?
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's been I've wanted to do it for so long that I actually don't remember when the point was.
Yeah.
I like to say I've been an actor for 20 plus years, but only been in the industry for 10, because it's just been something that I've always wanted to do.
Yes.
But just for accessibility reasons, I grew up in East End of Hamilton. My mom was first generation immigrant, so the accessibility to go into this work wasn't necessarily available to me. So it really started when I got my first job at 17, working at a cafe restaurant on the waterfront, and that kind of helped me pay for classes, taking film acting classes, taking um, trains and buses to Toronto. It's like a 55-minute train ride. At the time, actually, it was more of like an hour 30 because it was before we had the train. But
Yeah.
It was like an hour 30 bus ride to Toronto to do like student short films and take acting classes. My dad was kind enough to drive me sometimes.
Nice.
There was actually one time where I was doing a student short film and we went into overtime that I missed the last bus
Uh-oh.
to Hamilton. And I
Oh
was
no.
stranded in Toronto, 17, 18. And my dad had to drive all the way to Toronto to pick me up and drive me home at like 2 a.m. in the morning. And I still feel really
Aw.
bad about it, but you know, um, that kind of thing. So that's kind of just how I got started. And eventually I did the big move to Toronto. I used the excuse of university
Yeah.
and to like get a place, get access to grants, go to school. I genuinely do love school, so it was nice to actually go to university and get a
Sure.
degree. But the real excuse was to be in Toronto so that I could
Yeah.
really delve into this career and get an agent and all that jazz. So, yeah.
I love that though. I mean, ulterior motives are
That's
sometimes not a bad thing. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things where like if you can kill two birds with one stone, why
Absolutely.
not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
For example, I'm a huge superhero fan. Obviously, the new Captain America poster behind me, but my wife is also a superhero fan. So when it came out on Valentine's Day, hey, that's what we're doing for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Able to round it all together.
Yeah.
But I love you telling your story about, just the process of the dedication,
Mhm.
that it
Mhm.
took to get back and forth between the acting classes and your support system, mentioning that your
Mhm.
dad would come and pick you up and take you sometimes. I think that's very important because in this industry, there is a lot of things that will take you off the beaten path that you want your career trajectory to be, right? And
Mm.
so, as long as you have your support system, I feel like that is very important. So, what
Yeah.
was that like when you first told your parents that you wanted to pursue this as a career? Were they like, okay, hold on, let's think about this a little bit, or were they like all in supporting?
I kind of wish it was that gentle.
Right?
It, it was just full out no, you know.
Oh man,
At the very beginning, it was just and I get it, like now
of
reflecting back
course.
on it, I do get it because there's this fear and you know, my parents are also young on the younger side too,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
like they're kind of they're sticking to what they know works and they're sticking to what they know will provide like a better life
Hmm.
Right.
for me, and that to them is like education, you know becoming a doctor or a nurse or getting into like medical school or law school or any of the like engineer, um and it's just like what they know um, works,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that wanting to go into film and TV, like wanting to be an actor, obviously is not that. And there's all of these unknowns, and there's this like mirage of film and TV being the place where like it's not guaranteed,
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
But nowadays, nothing is guaranteed, like job wise,
No, that's yeah.
Exactly.
Uh, you might go to medical school for how many years and you might not really find a job, like
That's right.
Hmm.
especially especially in Ontario where that's like you're getting an influx of doctors and like not really knowing where to put them, and
Mm.
influx of nurses not really knowing where to put them. So um yeah, it was a lot of trying to prove to them that I could do this, and that was a lot of like and that too was the motive of getting a job, at 17 and going into this work, and they saw that I was actually making that effort to follow this dream myself and supporting myself mostly financially
Right.
with paying for classes and doing all these things. So they're like, okay, well, at least we'll meet you where you're at and we'll drive you to acting class in Toronto, or we'll pick you up, or we'll, support that way. Um, and eventually they got warmed up to it once I started making money.
There we go.
That always helps. That always helps.
Yeah, it always helps where, you buy your mom a nice thing, or you buy your dad a nice thing, or you come home with Christmas presents and they're like, "Where'd you get the money for this?" And you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, a couple of things there, right?
yeah,
It's the job of mom and dad to worry, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's they always want you to kind of be okay and do better than they
Hmm.
did, and if they can pass
Hmm.
along the mistakes they made and help you not do them, right?
Hmm.
As a dad,
Hmm.
I know that's what my but I think sometimes mom and dad have to remember too that in order to succeed, you have to fail. And
Yeah.
if you don't let your child fail every now and then,
Hmm.
they don't know how to succeed, right? And I think
Yeah.
you did a wonderful thing by showing them, hey, I'm not going to ask you guys to, while I just audition all day long for you to support me, I'm going to go get a job. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to put in the
Yeah.
effort because I'm serious about this and I'm going to
Yeah.
prove to you. And I think that went a really long way to get that acceptance from them.
Hmm.
So great for you. I think the way you
Thank you.
handled the situation,
Yeah.
because it can be difficult. A lot of times when the family says, no way, we're not a part of this, that can be
Hmm.
detrimental in someone chasing the dream, right? And
Yeah.
the way that you handled it, I think you did really well. The other thing about it is because you mentioned that, yeah, the mom was an immigrant, right, and coming into it,
Hmm.
and so they have a
Hmm.
very set way of how things are, I'm assuming, and this is what they think, kind of a thing. Like you had mentioned, they want you a lawyer, doctor, engineer,
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
right? Um, when you first enter into the industry, because now
Hmm.
we've just got it's a whole different game now as opposed to the way it was. Right now it's all about, it has to be inclusive, it has to be diverse, and we'll put people in roles that maybe don't make sense for roles just to meet that quota of having
Hmm.
that person, kind of a thing. Has that been
Hmm.
challenging for you getting into it, and how do you approach it as an actor? Do you audition for roles that aren't necessarily what the role called for, or do you stick to, they're looking for this, so these are the ones I'm going to audition for? What's your
Yeah.
approach on it? Because I think it's important for young actors trying to come up with that right now.
I think I think honestly, it's the one thing I like to say, that it really is important to learn and know how your industry works in particular.
Hmm.
Because for me, because now on breakdowns, you say open ethnicity. And a lot of the things that I was auditioning for was a lot of open ethnicity stuff, right? And there's a lot of American productions that film up here, right? And when you're kind of looking at the industry as an actor, it almost splits where you have the Canadian industry and then the American industry
Mm.
in Canada, because they both kind of live parallel and sometimes they cross over, but a lot of the time, not really. And the actor that's living in the place of Ontario, or living in Ontario, or living in Canada, um, has to kind of juggle two film careers a little bit, where it's like,
Yeah.
are you going to be the actor that a lot of the time is auditioning for American stuff, or are you going to
Mhm,
be the actor that a lot of the time is going to do really well in the Canadian industry?
mhm.
um, or are you going to kind of teeter on both? And when you're going into the American industry per se, there is a lot of that, like, diversity roles and like trying to hit those quotas. Um, but a lot of the time, it's more about getting the percentage of Canadians on the American set
Mm.
rather
Mm,
than the diversity
Yeah.
itself. Especially, in the beginning of my career, where it was a lot of like, your entire crew has to be Canadian if you're going to be filming up here. Your like, let's say 30% of your cast has to be Canadian
Right.
actors. Um, and so a lot of the time, what would happen is that you would have American production companies that were casting their leads and their supporting out of America, or out of LA. A lot of them would be like, hey, the leads and supporting will be American, and then whatever day player roles or principal roles we can fill in
I'm assuming
Yes, sir?
it's because it's the same as it is here, where they get some sort of a tax incentive.
Yeah,
American if they hire a certain percentage of
yeah,
crew and cast, right? They get money back
yeah.
for it, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah,
exactly. It's a tax incentive. But then what that kind of happens is like, then in that space, you're going to be auditioning for a lot of day player roles, and so your
right.
career is just going to be a lot of day player auditions. Um, and so sometimes it kind of feels a little bit stagnant where because they're casting out of the States, you need an LA agent or someone who can kind of get
Mm.
you on that
Mm-hmm.
side so that you can audition for supporting and lead roles
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
for those shows. At least this has been in my early experience, right? Um, and so that's kind of where that has really been. So it hasn't necessarily been like me as a Black woman, as an East African woman, trying to um, get into the industry through diverse casting, but rather me as a Canadian trying to get access to American roles and working on American sets. And then on the Canadian side, there is a bit more of that like wanting to support more diverse filmmakers and independent filmmakers because a lot of we don't really do private investing here. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of government funding.
Hmm.
So like telefilm, CBC, like all those spaces. And so with that, you have a lot of independent and first time directors coming up wanting to make their own stories. So you have like a lot of diasporic, really amazing first features that we make here, um, and television series. And you see that kind of growing a little bit,
Right.
you know? And then where you fit in that space, which a lot of the time is whether or not you fit in the community that film is going to be about,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
or if you're in the Canadian scene and those like big Canadian directors and filmmakers who are making all the movies and TV shows that get all the Canadian funding.
That's so interesting too, because yeah, that's why it's a beautiful thing to have conversations. That's why I'm so in love with this podcast and what we've been doing with this show. It's
Mm-hmm.
because like with having this conversation with you, I knew nothing about that. So to be able to learn from this, we always say the best form of education is through entertainment and conversation. So to
Yeah.
be able to learn from what you're saying, because I mean, obviously we're America based, United States based, and we know,
Mm-hmm.
not a lot about what's going on in Canada. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that is very interesting. And with you being, you're hitting the ground running, you're very early in your career, and we're very
Mm-hmm.
excited for your career, by the way, because we loved
Thank
your
you.
episode of Doc. How do you keep your mindset fresh? Because mental health is a big thing for us. So we know
Mm-hmm.
that the industry is full of, we like to say selection instead of rejection. So how do you feel like you keep your mind fresh and keep your momentum moving forward
Mm.
to continue auditioning and to continue reaching out to casting directors to try to get roles?
Mm.
I know I like to get deep, man. I really do. I really do.
um, you know what? That's such an interesting question because it's like there's a lot of conversation about mental health, particularly in my community right now, just
Hmm.
because as a East African, African, the there's a lot of learning that we have to do and a lot of deconstructing that we have to do around mental health, just
Hmm.
in general, right?
Most
Like
definitely.
putting it in your day to day, including it in your day to day. Um, so how that looked for me is I was doing a lot of, you know, present, like staying present,
Hmm.
doing a lot of presence work, and
Hmm.
whether that was meditation or if I, listening to very meditative music or grounding um, through yoga or, that it was just the first step of just learning how to ground myself,
Hmm.
Right.
not get too hyped up in hypotheticals, career anxiety,
Hmm.
imposter syndrome, all those things. And then when it came to implementing that in my career with, selection, as you say.
Yes.
um, so like if there was moments where it was kind of getting I was kind of getting away from myself, it would be a
Hmm.
lot of spiraling career anxiety where I'd be like, am I going to hit my career goals, like when I want to hit them, am I going to be able to actually make it in this industry? Am I actually cut out for this industry? You know, like, is it just too big to chew? Am I not cut out to be someone who carves their own path? Like, is there just not enough representation? Like, and that sort of thing. And what that would end up doing, especially during the time when you're in a place of always kind of auditioning for the same day player like roles, and it feels like you're not getting the opportunity to show casting directors your ability to act, you know? It would kind of spiral into this thing, and that would eventually end up in very impulsive decision making. Whether that be spending money on an acting class that I don't need, spending money on headshots that I don't need, or spending money on networking events, or trying to go to like the biggest TIFF parties, or you know, to see if I can maybe like jump the gun and meet, like, it just ended up being in a lot of impulsive decision making. As a result of, you know, not keeping my own anxieties in check. And so what ended up happening is I tried to ground myself, try to learn how to come up with really healthy coping mechanisms that I learned through, you know, right now there's a movement around mental health that's happening in Toronto, within a lot of community spaces in the city. And so learning those things, learning those coping mechanisms, and then I was like, maybe I just need to take it one at a time and just focus inward on me, and just making sure that I bring the best performance that I can in my audition, you know? And then what I noticed was there was this relationship where casting would send me things and I'd audition, and then they send me another audition for a different role. And then I come in, I'm like, okay, what if instead of thinking of networking or whatever, what if I just focus on my relationship with this casting director? Right? But we live in a space where there's only self tapes now. So you're not in the room anymore. You don't even know what this casting director looks like. You know, I still haven't met half the casting directors in this city. I have no idea what they look like, what they sound like, you know, but through performance and through them sending me breakdowns, it would be like this interesting relationship that we would kind of develop just through that interaction. And then I would try new things and kind of play around a bit, and then realize I was getting a response, and eventually that ended up in booking Doc. You know?
I love, because one, I love that you bring up that we're in this phase in the industry right now where you're no longer in the room. Thanks to COVID, everything now is what we're doing right here, right? And it certainly has changed the industry. But I want to touch a little bit about what you said about with your anxiety and the pressures that come along with this industry and the kind of things. It's got to be a little bit difficult sometimes, I'm thinking, when, for instance, you're at that point in your career now where you are starting to see some success. You are starting to get on some big name shows, right? Doc and Mayor of Kingstown. And so when you start to see that little breakthrough, right, you're like, oh, wait a minute, here we go. We're on a big show now. We're starting to see some movement, some success. That's got to play into the decision-making of, okay, I'm losing my mind right now. I really need a break, but I can't. I can't step back. How do you overcome that a little bit? Because I feel like mental health is important. And when you said, hey, I needed to know, I just need to take a break for a little bit, focus on this, focus on that, look inward. But when you're starting to see success, I feel like sometimes people are scared to look inward or take a break because they feel like, well, if I don't do this, I'm going to miss out on that next big show or on that So how do you cope with that a little bit? Because I feel like there's a lot of people in your situation where you're starting to see that next breakthrough emerging into the next step, and it's a careful way to tread when you're at that position, right?
Yeah, as actors, sometimes you don't want to stop,
Yeah.
you know, like you book a role, even, and especially when it's a role that is an upgrade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when
Right.
you go from maybe large principal, or when you go from actor to supporting
Right.
on a movie, right? Particularly like this was, I did a film, I did a movie 2 3 years ago, called Doing It. And that
Mm-hmm.
was with Lily Singh, Stephanie Patrice, you know, pretty awesome, really cool
Yeah.
names. I grew up watching Lily on YouTube, like
For sure.
during
Yeah.
her Superwoman days, you know what I mean? Like, and I thought, okay, this is it. It's happening. Like this is my shot, you know?
Yeah.
And then I and that was right after, you know, coming off of How to Die Alone, where
Mm-hmm.
it was like more of a day player kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
And then upgrading to supporting on like a really cool movie. And after that movie wrapped, I was like, I need to keep going. I need to keep
Mm.
going. I need to audition more and more. Like I need to get that next supporting role, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But then all that does is it kind of hooks you, so that when you do like maybe not get that role for another couple months or for another year, it feels like shit, you know? Like, oh,
For
Yeah.
sure.
can I
Yeah.
Okay, focus.
Yeah, you can. The E is
Yeah.
next to it. You're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay,
You're
all
good.
right.
Yeah, you're good.
It doesn't feel great, you know, and you kind of get almost back into this spiral of, you know, am I cut out for this?
Right.
Right.
You
Right.
know? So in the next year that happened, when I did uh when I did book doc, so last year was very busy personally. So we had
Mm-hmm.
doc, and then after that I filmed a movie called A Tribe Called Love. And then
Mm.
after that I filmed a Netflix show that's coming out later in the year.
Nice.
This year. And it was like just back to back to back.
Wow.
And for 6 months straight, just hopping from one set to another. And it felt really good, but then I was noticing little things where it's like, I'm not seeing my mom as much as I like to.
Right.
I'm not seeing my friends as much as I like to. I'm not, you know, participating in my community in the way that I like to. So then I had to really have this conversation where last year, this is what I wanted. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is
Right.
what's happening in 2024 is exactly what I wanted after I got off doing it in 2023. But now that I'm in it, I realized actually there's always going to be trade-off,
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
you know? So then there was more reflection of like, should I actually maybe really consider that work-life balance as I'm going further into my career, as I begin to do this more as a sustainable job,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know? And so after I finished the Netflix show, I had to, you know, I messaged my agent and I was like, I think I'm good for the year.
Mm.
You
Nice.
know, maybe
Nice.
we'll start up in January 2020. I feel like I felt like I've done enough in 2024. Let's maybe just take the rest of we finish in October, and or I finished filming in October, and I was like, I'm just gonna take October, November, December to just rest, hang out, and we're gonna start it all again in 2025.
There you
Mm-hmm.
go.
But it was really cool to feel that sense of like, I think I'm done. I think this is enough.
Yeah.
This is, you know, moderation. I don't want to be those people who like burn themselves out and run themselves into the ground. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh, most definitely. That was a very mature decision for
Absolutely.
being
Yeah.
such a young person and, trying to get your footing in the entertainment industry because
Mhm.
it is a very hectic thing. But I think, it has become more understanding about mental health breaks. You see all of these
Yeah.
stars taking mental health breaks from social media. And,
Mhm.
I feel like that probably used to pose a problem when, the star is about to be in this next hit film and the producers and everything are like, you should post about this film, but now I don't think people are as touchy about that situation
Right.
because they're very hands off, and you want to work with another big actor later down the line so
Mm,
you can continue that relationship and continue moving forward. But yeah, let's talk about Doc a little bit because
Yes.
yeah,
yeah.
we absolutely loved it, and I loved it too because of you know, there's always the narrative of the dad leaving in situations, and what your character and your father's character had was the
Mm,
mom leaving, the mom deciding to completely exit the situation, and especially in the African American community. So
mhm,
I feel like this story with this hot new medical drama that is blowing up everywhere is so
mhm,
relevant in today's time because we were talking about inclusivity earlier, and there's so many different situations that don't get talked about, and I feel like your episode story was one of those situations that never gets talked about the man stepping up and staying there to raise that child, because a lot
mm,
of the time, I say sometimes, the man gets the bad rap of leaving and being self-centered and not wanting to be the parent. So
mm.
just talk about your whole experience a little bit, and then talk about the storyline that revolved around your character.
Yeah. Um, it was really interesting because this episode I really had to reflect on my own relationship
Yes.
with my dad,
Hmm.
but also my mom,
Yeah.
which is really funny.
Yeah.
My dad is someone who is very much like he doesn't he's very much like he chooses his words wisely.
Hmm.
Mm.
He's
Hmm.
someone who really he's very reflective in the way that he talks, but also he's a very like passionate, stubborn man. You can't tell this man anything that goes against, who he is like he has such a strong sense of who he is as a person
Right.
and what he sees as right and wrong. And that was a lot like Eddie G's character who played my dad
Hmm.
on Doc, right? And but at the same time, the way Eddie played, my father was also very reflective of my mother as well, because my mother
Mm.
is very much like she can't let go.
Hmm.
She's very overprotective.
Right.
Like this idea of the kids growing up is something that is very scary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and he played both so nicely in a way that was like easy to fall into. And um so yeah, that was just a lot of that, and just so willing to just try things. And
Nice.
if we wanted to amp up the heat, we could amp up the heat. If we want to take it more chill, we could take it more chill. There was a sense of like tenderness and stuff. And yeah, I don't know, it was really interesting. um and to be honest, it had me kind of reflect a little bit where you know the father, in this sense, his whole identity has been Chloe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The
And
daughter.
raising
Yeah.
Chloe and protecting Chloe. And now
Hmm.
that Chloe is on her own and leaves, what is he now?
Right.
Hmm.
Who does he become now
Right.
without Chloe? And I feel that was a very interesting arc that they included in that show, where it's like what like the parent outside the child,
Hmm.
Hmm.
you know? I just imagine like later in the episode, like I don't know, like tries out hobbies, decides
Right.
to renovate and reconstruct his home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
starts building an in-home gym in Chloe's room instead of, like getting more and more comfortable. But like it just perfectly, so you just see this like possibility of a person's journey and what
Mm.
that's gonna look like
I
too. So yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
so much there. I love I love how you dive deep into it. Like, what's his story after? What's his kind of like, because
Yeah.
you do bring up a very good point though, because I feel like that's a thing that a lot of parents have to deal with. Once you have a child, that does very much become your identity. You're now
Yeah.
just dad or mom, and who you were before that doesn't exist. And you have to
Hmm.
try to figure out who you are after that, right? When they do go out on their own, because you're no longer that. You have to figure out how to reacclimate yourself back in. And the
Hmm.
thought that you brought that in, I love
Hmm.
that. It just shows how in depth you are to figure out the character, the background. Who's this guy? How
Hmm.
is he approaching? Why is he being overprotective? Why is he being this way? And it worked because, and I'm glad you brought it up, because that was going to be my question, was with the way you said your parents were with you, did you bring that in? Because he was very overprotective and very kind of a,
Yeah.
so I love that you were able to incorporate that. The chemistry was stellar.
Mhm.
And I thought the way you guys played off of each other was beautiful.
Mm.
And so
I
you,
cried.
yeah,
I
yeah,
cried for
yeah,
sure.
it was,
Really?
it
Yeah,
was,
I did.
and even more so
Okay.
to
Yeah.
complicate, right? Because it isn't just an overprotective dad that is protecting somebody that's completely healthy. He's an
Mm.
overprotective dad who does have a chance of everything happening to her because of
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
disease or this condition that she has. So the way
Mhm.
you guys were able to play that off, and
Mhm.
it was just a very, very beautiful thing. Um, so
Mhm.
well done. Now this show has been picked up and it is rocking and rolling. It's doing huge. But
Mhm.
I'm assuming at the point that you guys shot this thing, or right, it's a brand new show. Nobody knows. We hope it gets picked up. We hope it's gonna go well. Um,
Yeah.
what was the set like? Could you feel pressure from that, or were they just rocking and rolling and rolling with it, thinking we got something special here and we know it and we're just gonna kind of go with it? Or talk about the set
Yeah.
life on there a little bit about what it was like.
Um, so what I've learned is it's a like the crew is a very tight-knit community,
Yeah.
Mm.
especially in Canada, because
Hmm.
it's like you kind of it's kind of in a space where you have people in each department, and then you find that those same people will work on the next show all together. So
Right.
there's already this sense of like cohesion, like everyone really knows each other. And um there was a great balance of professionalism and like fun,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better word. Like it was, and so it was a lot of like, like we really want to finish on time. We really don't want to go into over, like we don't want to keep people more than they need to. We want to get people home to their families.
Right.
Um, but we also want to have like a really great set experience. So there was like um lots of jokes, lots of laughs.
Love that.
Ollie Parker is so cool.
I bet.
And she actually we lived she used to live on my street, like the
Oh
street
wow.
now.
Wow.
So it was really, really interesting. The makeup artist, what I'm like the makeup the makeup folks, so inclusive. It was
Mm.
like there's, especially during this moment where they were doing my makeup and we were having a conversation, he was like, well, like um because Chloe goes through like a near death
Right.
experience
Right.
in this space. So we were talking about how that would look. And there was conversations about like wanting the lips to be a bit blue. And then the makeup, key makeup was like, well, for her skin tone, it would be more ash, right? So we
Mm.
have to, so there was a lot of like research done. Like they really did
Yeah.
their research and they were always asking me like my comfortability,
Nice.
hair. Um, I had a black hairstylist on set
Hmm.
and we were having conversations together about what our hair would look like. It's like, okay, well, you wash your hair once a week. If we're in the hospital for 2 days and you didn't get a chance to wear your bonnet or your head wrap, or you didn't get a chance to do anything, it'd probably be this level of frizz. And so we would
Right.
frizz up my hair for the day, like the day in hospital that I would be in, kind of thing.
That's
Love
awesome.
that. Wow.
So yeah, it was such great attention to detail, and always asking if I needed anything, or food dietary restrictions are always respected. Like it was a very professional and inclusive set. And working with, like, I learned so much watching Molly work. And there's actually one point where it was the scene where I had my argument with my dad, and and the moment where I squeeze the wound on my hand and it starts bleeding, and Molly kind of goes, stop. One of the takes, she kind of like, there was one take where the scene really hit home. And she kind of goes to me and she's like, I don't say this to everyone, but you're my favorite patient. And I was like,
right,
Molly.
Love that. Love it.
You know, it was really cool. And when I booked my next project, you know, we were talking and I told Molly that I booked my first feature, which was at the time, which was going to be, or a lead on my first feature. And when it was wrap, Molly kind of goes to everyone and goes, just announcement, guys, like Feaven booked her first lead on a feature film. And it was like, everyone was given like a big round of applause and a clap. And it was just
that's great.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So communal, like a very much like a community, like a very much supportive, like we're here, we're professionals, but you know, we're also creative. So we're here to support each other. It's just, yeah, it was great.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's so great. So what we like to do at the very end of our interviews is hit you with some popcorn questions. These are some fun questions that, you know, feel loosey-goosey, you know, have get the audience to get to know you a little bit better and to just, you know, get to know your personality a little bit. And I think you might have already answered this first one. What was the funniest moment or most memorable moment on the doc set?
Probably that.
When you said that, I was like, I know exactly that was about to be it.
that one, or when picture wrap, when we were all kind of saying our goodbyes, and that very supportive, like, that send off.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, well, this I'm curious, just because of our conversation and how you approach everything and the way you view life and all this. I'm really interested in this one. If you could live inside a television show or a movie, which one would it be and why?
Right now?
Yeah. Or any show. It could be a past show or a movie. It could be,
You know what? It would either be Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, okay.
Only because I'm watching it right now, and I'm rewatching it right now. It's so good, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to be in this universe.
Hey, it's coming back, so we're just saying we're gonna put that out there for you. Like, just manifest that, right?
Exactly.
You might be in that universe.
The title of Doc, Once More with Feeling, is also a name of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode. So there I don't know, go. Like maybe the planet.
Just saying.
That, or just because I'm a nostalgia junkie, probably also Smallville.
Oh,
nice.
Two great choices.
Yeah. I mean, if they reboot Smallville, honestly, like I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be close to it either.
Without doubt.
That's so great. And so this is kind of a more serious one. What would you tell your 10-year-old self?
What did I tell my 10-year-old self? You were right the whole time.
Love that.
Yeah, you were right the whole time. I think I was having a conversation with another friend of mine, but when you're a kid and you kind of have these, you know, either whether you're outgoing or you're bubbly, or you know, you have high energy or whatever, and your active imagination, and then, you know, people, as you grow older, in the spirit of protection and in the spirit of love sometimes, tend to tell you, well, maybe, maybe bring your energy down a little bit, maybe keep your expectations not too high, kind of thing.
Yep.
And then you grow up, and then you're sent out into the real world, and then you realize that you're trying to get back to the same level of energy and spirit as like your 10-year-old self.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then you realize that's what everyone is really into and really wants nowadays.
Yep. Yep.
So then it's just like, okay, now I have to just get back to that. Looks like she was right the whole time. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's probably what I tell my 10-year-old self. Yeah.
Love that. And that kind of just wraps it up with this last one. And I have an idea of what we're going to hear you say, but I'm curious. We always like to say, are you happy with your career where it's at right now? So far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think I think eventually I did get to that. I mean, that wasn't always the case, again, like being an ambitious person, like wanting things to happen immediately,
Yep.
Yeah.
But being forced to take the long route
Mm-hmm.
because it is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, yes, it is.
And my dad has this, he told me this when I was younger, but he said it's harder to walk 2 steps forward than if you took it 1 step at a time.
Ooh,
and so
I like that.
I'm like, it eventually coming to the fact that I'm right where I need to be. I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and things will happen in their own time as long as I put in the work and I put in the effort and I don't give up, best to say.
Yep.
So, and I still have to live life too. Like, I can't be all about career. Like, I also have to live this other side of
That's right.
of being an adult in a city,
Yep.
So yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Well,
Yeah.
I say you're on the right track. You're doing
Without
everything
doubt.
properly. I'm just so, after having this conversation, just so happy for you and proud of you. And I'm
Thank
super
you.
excited to watch your career grow because we feel like it's really going to. But it's all about social media. So where can people follow you?
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram, at Feaven Abera. You can also follow me on Blue Sky, which I think is also Feaven Abera, but could also be lying.
Could be lying. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's Feaven Abera as well.
All right.
If not, I'm just gonna change it to that right now. That's my new Blue Sky
There
handle.
you go.
There we go.
Yeah, so that and Blue Sky and IMDb, that kind of thing.
All the good places.
Yes.
All the good places,
Yeah.
I'm a zillennial. I keep it very simple.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
like Logan said, just you're definitely doing everything right, and you've just been an absolute gem to talk to today. And I think it's going to inspire a lot of people because you are proof positive that if you do things right and you put in the work and you understand that it is a marathon and not a sprint, and you're proof positive that you can be successful and you can do it and go after it. And so thank you so much for talking to us and putting out what you've learned, because I think it is going to help a lot of people trying to break into the industry, which is what we're all about. So we appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah, always here for it. I'm actually, mentoring other actors. I never really say no to people who reach out to me wanting to talk. And
Love that.
Again, like, I'm in my early stages of my career. Like, I want to say it is more emerging, but definitely there's been a shift.
Yep.
And I feel like sometimes when you're trying to figure out where your career is or how to start it, and you're looking at other people who've kind of already hit that finish line, and it's like, well, now because you've already been, working for so long, like, I can't really follow how you got to this point in this era of your career. You know what I mean? So just being as open and communicative with it as much as possible, I think, is just as positive for the community than to just wait till you've become successful. You know what I mean?
Yep. Love it.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you again so much. Take care, and we're going to be talking to you soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right. You too.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, what a phenomenal interview and a conversation with somebody. Like I said, we try to shoot for Oscar winners and up and comers at the same time, and this is a true example of that.
Oh, without doubt. And, like you said during the conversation, it's always awesome when we learn something that we didn't know.
Yeah,
And, I think it would be a lot of people probably didn't know that in Canada, there's not a lot of private funding, that it is
right.
all done by the government, which that's awesome because I wish ours would be more that way. You'd see a lot more success with indie filmmakers if it was
Yeah.
government funded as opposed to having to try to privately raise the money. That'd be epic. So you
Yeah.
learn something new every day. And she was just a gem, man. So much advice and knowledge to give to the up and comers. What a great conversation.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. Thank you again, Faven, for coming on the show. All right, now it is time for our top five segment, man. And do we have our doctor's coats? Do we have our what's it called? The thing that listens to the heartbeat?
The
Do we have
not the stethoscope.
I know I was about to say the thermometer too, and I was like, damn it.
Stethoscope.
Oh my goodness. We're ready though. We are ready
We are.
to provide you our top five medical drama characters. And man, oh man, I strictly stuck to doctors because it was very hard. There's so many different medical dramas out there, so it was hard to narrow it down to a specific character. So I was like, God dang it. This is my favorite doctor. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to dive into these.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And number five is like a kicker. We both agree. It's a relatively new one, but this guy's so good, we both said yes.
That's right, man. The doctor is in. That's for sure. The one and only Dr. Jake Heller from, of course, Fox's Doc. I really enjoy this guy. This is the first time I had ever seen him on screen, and what he's doing with his character in this hot new drama is definitely moving mountains, in my opinion. He's like a cross between like Henry Cavill and freaking Taron Egerton or like Wolverine. He looks like he could play Wolverine.
He
That's
could,
for
maybe,
sure.
yeah.
I'm really enjoying his character. He seems like he has a really good moral compass to him. So I'm excited to see where his character grows throughout the progression of this series.
He's a good guy, but he's a
Yes.
good guy that apparently they seem to be setting up to get dumped on. And that's gonna cause trouble. I feel like he might go down a path where he's gonna do something we all hate, but it's gonna be justified because he's being dumped on. That's all I'm saying. And there's a woman in the wings waiting for him that hopefully can shift him back to the guy that we love, Dr. Jake Heller. I don't know. I called that early on, though. I thought that dynamic was going to play, and it certainly looks like after the last episode, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it certainly looks like that dynamic is headed there. Yeah, he's just one of those really good guys. He's the doctor that you would want to have because he doesn't just care medically, he cares about you personally. He's got the bedside manner. He's the guy that, is going to take care of you. And that's the doc I want. I don't have too many of those. I got those, docs that don't really have bedside manner. So, paging Dr. Jake Heller.
Exactly.
Come my way, man.
Speaking of a doctor who has no bedside manner, my number 4 pick is Dr. Gregory House from House, of course. This guy, every once in a while, you need a doctor just to show you a mirror to society and tell you how fucked up you're being to your actual self. And that's what we get from Gregory House, that's for sure. Of course, his series House was so freaking popular about a decade and a half ago. But I think what this character was, that person who is there for you, but is also like not going to sugarcoat anything. And I thought that's why everybody was drawn to the show House. It made everything very interesting because his moral compass was interesting, I should say, because he kind of threw the rule book out the window a few times. So to have somebody in a character like this where you're like, oh, he's not really doing the right thing, but he's kind of a badass is always kind of fun. So yeah, that's why I had to put him on the list. Number 4 for me, Gregory House.
Totally. And while he was very direct and to the point and sometimes came across as an asshole, my number 4 did also, but not for the same reasons. My number 4 is Dr. Sean Murphy, who of course had issues, and which is why, he was on the spectrum. He had some stuff going on. He wasn't socially able to be anything but direct and have a bad bedside manner. He didn't mean to be, but it's just the way he was. So I like this guy. Why? Because he overcame his I don't want to call it a handicap, because it's not really a handicap, but his
autism,
challenges,
right?
yeah, his autism, his challenges, if you will, and became a surgeon and became the doctor, and then finally got past the social awkwardness and got a bedside manner, and because of the people around him. But I just really liked Freddie Highmore's approach to this character, the way they delivered it, and kind of showed that people were capable, and that you shouldn't underwrite or write off somebody for things that you think make them in a way that they can't do things. I just really, really like the approach of how this show handled it, and the performance, and just this doctor in general character, Sean Murphy. If you watch that show and didn't get behind him and start rooting for him, then I'm worried for you. I'm worried. That's all I'm saying. My number 4, Dr. Sean Murphy.
For sure, man, for sure. Number 3 for me goes to Dr. Richard Weber from the hit show Grey's Anatomy. Of course, I had to put this on there because Dr. Weber is the mentor we all know and love, and that we all want in our own personal life, that's for sure. I love the actor that plays him too. He does such an amazing job at, just portraying someone who is there for you, cares, but also somebody who puts their foot down when they need to. And he's done that more times than once, that's for sure.
Oh,
and he's always that stable person that is there for you in the long haul. Everybody else is kind of wishy-washy, but Dr. Weber will always be there for a shoulder to cry on or a piece of advice to give you in the surgical room on the operating table. So yeah, Richard Weber is definitely one that leaves the impression on me, and one of the only original cast members still a part of Grey's Anatomy still to this day. So kudos to him, and yeah, number 3 for me, Dr. Richard Weber.
There you go. And staying in your theme of several characters from the same show, my number 3 is the woman that helped give Dr. Sean Murphy a bedside manner and get him through the social awkward stages and learn how to be compassionate. Leah. Can you have Sean without Leah? You cannot. This was a critical character in the growth of Sean and of Glassy, Dr. Glassman. She was the focal character that bridged so many of the other characters in the show. And I honestly don't think that without the character of Leah, I don't think that the show works. I think they needed that bridge character to make the rest of the characters work. And it was just done brilliantly. So my number 3, Leah from The Good Doctor. Leah DiLallo, I think was her last name. And of course, Leah Murphy by the end of it. But yeah, just brilliant. I loved it. And I just, her character, you were rooting for her from day one. You just were. And I loved it. Loved it. Leah. My number 3.
Yes, she was probably my favorite character when I would jump in and watch it with Emily, that's for sure. Number 2 for me goes to Dr. Christina Yang from Grey's Anatomy. I think all of us want to have a little Christina Yang in us because she is a ruthless badass that doesn't have a problem telling you what is on her mind or what needs to get done. Like, I still think the best character send-off in that show was Christina Yang. Just the way she came in as a badass. I think it was when there was an explosion in Seattle and she rushed in freaking on her last day saving people's lives and everything. Sandra Oh is such an amazing actress, and of course we will always be a fan of her because of Christina Yang and just the trials and tribulations that her character goes throughout the first, I think she was in there for 8 or 9 seasons, is honestly impeccable, amazing, and there's no other Christina Yang, so of course she had to be on the list. Number 2 for me, Christina Yang from Grey's Anatomy.
Well, there you go. And now I am jumping into Seattle Grace and Grey's Anatomy, and I'm going to do it. And my character, in my opinion, was the character that shifted the entire dynamic of that show. Literally changed the course of the hospital, all of the doctors, all of the spouses. Every single relationship within that show drastically changed because of this man, Denny Duquette. Yes. Denny Duquette's tragic love story and ending with, of course, Izzy. It changed everything. It changed everything. And George's life, Izzy's life, Alex's life, everybody, Meredith's, like, everybody's life changed because of that love story between those two. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who typically plays like this kick-ass, badass, I'm gonna whoop you dude, was brilliant as Denny. Like, just brilliant. Every episode that I watched of that show that featured Denny and that love story between those two characters, I was in tears. I was a mess. It was so powerful and so moving. I had to put him on the list. I think he's one of those characters in any medical drama over the last 30 years that moved you and moved the show in a way that probably wouldn't have happened without. So brilliant writing, brilliant just portrayal, just everything, top to bottom. Denny Duquette, Grey's Anatomy, my number 2.
Oh, great freaking pick, man. Great freaking pick. Yeah, it's a very lighter side of Jeffrey Dean Morgan that we never really get to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very cool. And then of course, I mean, there should have been no question about who my number one is. I mean, come on now. If you are listeners of the show, follow me on social media, anything like that, you should know that I absolutely love Patrick Dempsey. Okay, he is number one man crush, no matter who else comes into my life. Okay, Glenn Powell's okay. Freaking, they're all fine, but freaking Patrick Dempsey and his hair, even when he is a child serial killer on Dexter, I'm still pulling for him. Okay, spoiler alert, he was a child killer.
He's still got great hair.
He still got great hair, man. The salt and pepper looks great. All right, I'm not gonna lie about it, but Derek Shepherd, definitely the number one pick on my list from Grey's Anatomy. Even when we had Michael O'Neill on the show, he was the hospital shooter from Grey's Anatomy, and he almost killed Derek Shepherd. So we had a few things to say about him, or say to him. So be sure to go back and listen to that interview. It's fantastic. But yes, of course, Derek Shepherd is my number one. He is the smartest guy in the room every single time. Even when he's wrong, he is right. Okay, so anything he says or does is freaking fantastic. Of course, my number one, the one and only Dr. Derek Shepherd.
Well, there you go. The one and only character responsible for bringing the label of a sexy man into pop culture icon status, McDreamy.
Yes.
No Derek Shepherd, no McDreamy. So there you go. I mean, that makes sense that and yeah, if he had not been your number one, I would have called bullshit. I would have said,
Come
no
on
way.
Now.
All right.
On now.
My number one, I will argue, and there's been great ones, everybody on our list so far, and Marcus Welby, MD, and there's like just so many amazing, awesome doctors over the decades for medical shows. But I would argue this is the most beloved of them all, and the ratings as the highest watched network show in history still would back me up. My number one, Dr. Benjamin Franklin Pierce, better known as Hawkeye from MASH, played brilliantly by Alan Alda. This show, although defined as a comedy, was a dramedy before they started calling them dramedies. It was filled with a lot of drama and very powerful episodes, including the finale where maybe Alan Alda's best work, where this is a guy who was trying to do the best of a bad situation and be funny and get through this horrific war by bringing humor to situations. But in the end, he cracked. He went insane. And the whole thing was because he was making up this story in his head to try to justify they were in enemy territory trying to get back to camp. And they were surrounded by the enemy and they were trying to be silent. And he keeps having this recurring nightmare about this chicken that wouldn't shut up that they had on the bus. This Vietnamese woman had a chicken and it kept clucking and it was loud and it was drawing the enemy and they were afraid they were all going to be killed. And he finally was like, just shut that fucking chicken up. You got to or we're all going to die. And so she snaps the chicken's neck. Well, throughout his therapy in the show, he's having a therapy session and he's recounting all this. We get to the point where Hawkeye has to admit that the chicken was her child, a baby crying, and she snapped the baby's neck to prevent them all from dying. Fuck. This is what I'm talking about, where Alan Alda just delivered. You know, you're used to Hawkeye with the gin and messing with Charles and messing with Frank and doing all the crazy stuff with Trapper and BJ and all the but that, I was like, fuck. And so that's why he had to be number one on my list. Just Hawkeye Pierce, MASH, one of the greatest TV doctors of all time. No doubt about it.
For sure, man. For sure. I know. I went back and watched the pilot, and I want to go back and watch the ending, just to see that, because with the way you recount that story, I mean, that's hardcore.
It's powerful, bro. And he just and I forget the guy who plays the therapist. Sydney, is the character's name, but he was throughout the whole series in a bunch of episodes over the years. They would do these like documentary where a war journalist would come and it would be shot in black and white and they'd be interviewing, and Sydney was a part of a lot of those episodes. But yeah, for him to finally break Hawkeye and say, just own up. It's okay to admit you snapped. You went fucking crazy. This war is not friendly and you've been holding it back it was so powerful, bro. So powerful.
Yeah, that is crazy. But anyway, guys, we want to know, medical dramas are huge out there, and there's so many of them to choose, so you have to have some favorite characters. Please be sure to comment below down in the comments section, and let us know what your favorite medical characters or your top 5 medical characters are. There's so many out there, so we know there's so many more that could be on the list that may or may not be on yours. Like I said, be sure to like and subscribe, comment section down below, all the fun stuff. But now we are heading over to the box office recap, where Mickey 17 did pull out all the stops and came in at the number 1 spot this past week. It came in with $19 million domestically, I believe, but then it performed better overseas. So we'll see how this does. I still think Warner Brothers is going to take a bath on this thing, which is unfortunate because I've heard mixed reviews about it, but it's such like a art house different type of film that I still want to go support it because it is different from everything we've seen so far that is coming out at the box office. So I would still love to go see it.
I agree with you that I think it's going to take a bath, because when we jump to the next about new movies that are coming out, Novocaine is tracking, sadly, with only 10 to 14 million for this weekend, but will bump it from the number 1 spot after 1 week with only 12 to 14 million. So that does not bode well good for Mickey 17, but
Exactly. The number 2 spot did come in with Captain America Brave New World with $8.4 million. We're ending the box office reign of Captain America Brave New World, and soon we'll be able to know the final tally for this pick on your list. So I'm super excited for that. The 3 spot was Last Breath with $4.1 million. The Monkey came in at number 4 with $3.9 million, which is crazy because I think this one is on streaming already.
It is.
I could be wrong. But then number 5 was Paddington in Peru with $3.7 million.
I can't believe that thing's still hanging.
I know, it's so wild,
just
man.
Weird,
so wild. But new movies still coming out this weekend, like you mentioned, Novocaine. Is that the Jack Quaid one?
Yeah. Where he can't feel any pain. Yeah.
That one and the new one with Rami Malek. I don't know why they're not like the same premise, but they keep getting confused in my head. It's so weird.
It is the Jack Quaid one. Yep.
I see. It looked good, man. It looked good.
It does.
Number 2 for me, or number 2, the other movie that is coming out is Black Bag, directed by Steven Soderbergh. So be sure to check that one out. Opus, The Day the Earth Blew Up, the Looney Tunes movie, and The Four Rascals. You can see these films in select cineplexes near you or select theaters near you. And then, of course, new movies you can go, or movies you can still go see. One of them days, Dogman, Honora, Queen of the Ring, and Ziza 2. Again, like I said, in select theaters near you.
I want to go check out Queen of the Ring. That's the one with Felicity from Arrow that's a wrestler. He's got a lot of badass women actors that we love on all these other shows that we watch in this movie as wrestlers. I'm totally down. And she threw down. She called out Stephen Amell. She said, I trained with real wrestlers and got some real shit. I bet I could beat him.
Damn.
I know. Felicity versus Oliver. Let's go. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. That's funny, man. That's funny. Well, heading over to the IMDb Pro's top trending segment, the top trending movie is Honora. The top trending show is The White Lotus. And the top trending star is Mikey Madison. I love to see it, man. One of the youngest people who's ever won an Oscar, and kudos to her. She definitely deserves it because I feel like she's going to be a legend in this entertainment industry. I'm hoping so anyway, because I'm ready for the next generation of young actors to take over, in my opinion. And there's just so many good ones out there.
There really is.
Like, Hollywood is in really good hands right now with the younger generation coming up.
And she's a prime example of everybody's billing her as an overnight success, winning the Oscar. And she's just like, she's been doing it for like years, you guys, almost 10 years. And she's the prime example of it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. So while she might be new and fresh to the scene for you, she's actually been around for quite a while. So, like, you know, good for her, though. I think she's going to be around a long time. I'm with you.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. Well, we got to thank our guests one more time, Feaven Abera, for coming on the show from Doc. Be sure to follow her on Instagram and all the good places that she is on.
Yes.
Of course, you can follow the company and podcast on social media as well at Crazy Ant Media on all our social media platforms, at ITCAFpodcast on all social media platforms, and then of course our other podcast, Everything's OKP, our mental health podcast, where it's our bi-weekly therapy session. That's for sure. There won't be a new episode of Everything's Okay podcast coming out next week. Decided to take a little break. So, of course, that's a mental health podcast. It's all about
one of our episodes is all about taking a break. Exactly.
Exactly. And then, of course, you guys know you can follow us both personally on social media. Myself at Logan Austin on all social media platforms, and
at Crazy Ant CEO on all platforms.
Boom, boom, bow. No, man, oh man. Yeah, and of course, you can subscribe to this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Stitcher, and so much more. And of course, be sure to visit our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear right now, free shipping while supplies last. So be sure to take advantage of that, because we don't want you to pay full price. Please,
please. Never.
Be
aware, though, that's domestic, not international.
Yes, yeah, we do have some fans and supporters out there in the UK and all of these.
We'll see what we can do about discounting your items for you, but we can't discount the shipping. They just won't let us, and that's not free. But
exactly, man, exactly. Well, this was a great freaking episode, man. I'm super happy with all of the industry news. The week was a little bit slower than anticipated, but then like towards the back half of the week, we started getting some stuff. But I definitely think the biggest thing that I'm excited about this upcoming season, shows, movies, all those things, I'm super pumped for Jason Ritter going on to the Lantern series, man. He deserves everything and more that comes his way, and I want to see more of this for him. He deserves all the success in the world.
I would agree. He and his wife, Melanie Lynskey, are two of the kindest human beings that you would ever hope to meet in your life. They are authentic, they are real, and to see the success that they're both having, I mean, Melanie is just everywhere like Jason, and to see it happening for both of them, and especially Jason, who took time off to put Melanie into the forefront and say, go get your career. You know, you've been on the back burner with the baby and letting me thrive. Now you go thrive. And now to see them both together thriving, that's how it's done, y'all. That's how it's done. So huge congrats to Jason and to Melanie, and just I hope that they are both around just forever, and I can never turn on the TV and not see them. I hope that's true forever.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. I love it. I love it. And of course, for 288 episodes, we love the one, the only
Oprah!